Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carmine Sabia for Explain America, and there is some good news for former President Donald Trump after he was convicted on all those counts in Manhattan. Before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Those little things really help us out, and they help our channel continue to grow. The wheels of justice tend to move very slowly, and that can be very frustrating for people, especially those of us who are looking for a quick resolution before an election, an important one, let's say presidential election. You want a quick resolution, and sometimes those wheels of justice, they move slow. If you've ever been to a court, you know that that's the case, right? So now, here comes former President Donald Trump's sentencing, and it's scheduled for July. It's scheduled for July 11th, I believe. And, the Republican National Convention just a few days later. But the whole case might actually be overturned, and there's actually good reason to overturn the case. And that's the good news for President Trump, but he has to wait for the sentencing before he can even appeal. I want you to take a look at this and let me know what you think about what's being said here. Will this case be overturned? Was Trump railroaded? Let me know in the comments right after you watch this.
I've always seen in these trials in the past, Jonathan, and maybe you and I have talked about them, where it is sentencing day, and usually the person who has been targeted has notes or letters or comments by friends or colleagues who say wonderful things about him or her, depending on the case. And I'm wondering if the judge has a sentence in mind. Does he say, oh, I was going to give him 20 years, now I think I'll give him 10 because he has all of these nice, people vouching for him? Or does it move the needle at all?
I think it can move the needle on the margins. I think judges generally come in with a fairly good idea of a narrow range where they want to sentence someone. Sometimes the allocution, sometimes the statement of the defendant can actually irritate a judge and push you towards the top of that bandwidth for the judge. I think that people coming in and talking about the person can have some influence. With Trump, I don't believe that's going to be the case. Like everything else about this case, he came fully baked in the view of many people, jurors, and judge. I think people have this idea of who Trump is. They either love him or they hate him. I've never met anyone in the middle of those two camps. And so I don't think that the needle's going to move much here. But it also would be absurd to send him to jail. He is an elderly first offender, nonviolent crime in a very controversial prosecution. This whole case could be overturned ultimately on appeal. I think that Judge Merchan would be considerably outside the navigational beacons to sentence him to even a day in jail.
Still, he's going to face enormous political pressure, right, to do something. And it could go both ways, right? Those who want to see Donald Trump in prison and those who fear that if he does go to prison, even for a short amount of time, it's going to cement his return to the White House. So does he weigh that, or is he beyond
I
the
think
politics?
That's true. Well, he's not supposed to. And I have to say, I don't mean to be gratuitous towards the judge, but after sitting in that courtroom, I wouldn't be surprised by anything. I thought he was really quite biased in terms of his rulings. They went very heavily towards the prosecution. I don't know if he normally is known as a pro-prosecution judge, but some of his rulings did not make a lot of sense. There's a lot of pressure. When I came out of that courtroom after the verdict, it was like the Roman games. I mean, people were ecstatic to a point that it was difficult to watch. People were dancing in the streets. That's the environment around this courthouse. And there were other people who were in deep, agony and sorrow. It was a picture of the United States, and it was not necessarily a good one. I mean, I stood there for a second and took it in because it was such a bizarre, bifurcated scene.
Yeah,